Hello, welcome to Doghead Tech and to a series where I try and take faulty gaming equipment and bring them back from the dead. In this episode we have a limited edition Days of Play 2018 PS4 controller, of which the left analog stick is permanently in its up position and the right one seems to have been fitted a little bit wonky. On top of that, we may have some power problems, and I have noticed that we've got 3 screws in the back that aren't original, so I am anticipating maybe someone's worked on this before. Maybe that's why we're experiencing the problems that we're experiencing. However, to truly confirm that, we need to get the thing open, so let's do exactly that. This one up here is the original screw. These screws here that they're a little bit bigger, shall we say, they tend to be used in knockoff controllers. I'm quite confident that this isn't a knockoff controller, and I'll tell you why in a bit. But just so you get a comparison of these screws here, this is just a little bit flatter and a little bit shallower, whereby these ones, bigger, a bit bulkier. These ones tend to be used in aftermarket controllers, whereby these ones are your original ones. I did say that I'm kind of confident that this isn't an aftermarket controller, and the reason for that, a way that you can kind of tell, is that this kind of textured back here is always parallel to where the label is. On the aftermarket, you'll kind of see it's a little bit off center. This Sony emblem tends to be silver, or there's not one at all. So again, that's another way that you can kind of tell. However, if it has been opened up and fixed in the past, then there's no telling kind of what's under this. So let's have a look. So A, is it an original board? And B, has it been worked on before? So let's get this back off. Okay. So straight away, there's a PlayStation emblem there. So it's definitely an official board. May as well lift. Okay, and it's definitely been worked on before because the touchpad wasn't plugged in. And let's have a look at these analogs. So this doesn't actually look like it's been worked on before, which I'm very surprised at. There isn't a screw. We're missing a screw in the back here. This should be screwed into this plate. So surprisingly, it doesn't actually look like this has been worked on before. Maybe someone's just taken it apart out of morbid curiosity because it's gone faulty and not really done anything else with it. So a bit of a result. All of a sudden our chances of actually repairing this thing go up. So let's get this board off. We'll put all the plastics, the mid frame, everything to one side just for the meantime. These screws can go in the bin. A little bit for me. A little bit for my sponge. These analog sticks as well, they're beginning to split, so we'll change them as well once we've repaired this. This one here, this is what it should look like, our potentiometer from the outside. And the one that's going directly up, this is what it does look like. So that somehow is broken. I've never seen a failure quite like that, to be honest. So if you saw my last video where I fixed the Sea of Thieves controller, then this potentiometer will look very, very familiar to you because they use exactly the same one. Let me see if I can get it under. The middle of that's totally cracked, which is why it's not doing what it should be doing. Kind of has scratched this up a little bit on the inside, so we'll just swap that out. I will check these other potentiometers as well, just to make sure that they're not scratched up. And then we need to address our power issue, and I reckon that's going to be a faulty battery, so we'll swap that out then. And then hopefully we should be there. Relatively painless fix, touch wood. Oh, I did forget we've got that wonky analog as well, haven't we? You know what? I'm going to change the entire thing out on that because I think that's going to start drifting. It didn't seem to drift when I tested it briefly, but I think that's something that in time. Tell you what, I'm just going to introduce a little bit of heat to this. Tell you what, that looks a little bit dark too. This one's come out of this top one here. That looks okay, but that doesn't look wonderful. So I'll probably swap that out as well. So the limited edition variant that this is a Days of Play variant, which I didn't realise until just prior to filming this video was made as a 2018 promotional campaign across the world, whereby there'll be huge discounts, and I think this was kind of released to coincide with that. They did another one in 2019 as well, another Days of Play limited edition release that was in grey. So that's the difference, I believe, simply between the two, is that the blue one was in 2018 and the grey one was in 2019. I didn't know that before shooting this video. This is a brand new stick as opposed to a harvested one, so this will be perfect. Just a little bit of flux, I don't want it to get too messy. Last thing we want is for flux to drip down inside these potentiometers, because that then creates a whole entirely different problem. There we go, that's a pretty good job, I think. Okay, so now we've kind of fixed the problem that we had with the circuit board, we can turn our attention to the cosmetic aspect of things. So off camera, I am going to clean up this chassis and I'll be back in a sec. Right, so that chassis is all cleaned up and it's cleaned up really, really nicely. Really happy with it. We do still have these surface scratches on here, which obviously I can't do anything about. One thing I have noticed is that on the inside of this left, let me see if I can get it on camera. On this left side here is a little bit tatty, so I am going to just lightly sand the inside of that, otherwise it's going to feel bumpy when you're moving the analog around. I noticed when I was disassembling the mid frame some more that the spring on this right hand side has bent, and I did kind of notice it when I was disassembling it. However, I thought I was just being a little bit pedantic. However, that has legitimately bent, so I'm going to have to change that as well, which is fine because we've got loads of those. Once we've sanded this, once we've changed this, and we can get it back together, we can then put a new battery into it, and then hopefully we can call that fixed. Oh, hang on. These have got the wrong... These aren't the right pads. There's me wondering why they're not going on properly. They're not the right ones. Okay, let's get the right ones. That's what's inside of it. That's what it's come with. We should have these guys. Ones that don't have these little bits on the end. Now we can install what should be in there. There we go. So just for the meantime, I'm just going to attach the original analog sticks on, just to test. So let's test a new battery into this, or a replacement battery rather. Let's see if this solves our problem with our weird lights. And it has. That battery has changed that. It's sorted that out. So I'm going to give this a quick test. That came straight on. I can't believe that battery's actually got power in it. I'm going to give this a quick test. I'm going to see if it works, and then we'll get these analog sticks, the actual plastic, swapped out, get it back together, give it a full test then hopefully it should be fine.
A few moments later.
So, a couple of things. The analog sticks that we've replaced are totally fine. They work perfectly. So as I say, we need to change the plastics around on those. What I have noticed is that the left trigger was a little bit off. We need to have a look at the conductive membrane that's in this as well, because it just seemed a little bit, didn't seem quite right either. So we need to have a look at this too. This is taking up quite a lot of parts actually. actually looks a lot better than it was. Yeah, I'm going to put that back in. The reset works. Oh, hang on. So make sure the reset works. The reset button's broken off. How did I miss that? Right. So this is the faulty one that came out. This is the new one that's going in, or replacement one that's going in. Pop this back on.
A few minutes later.
We have identified a small problem on this L2 button. It's not registering. Not overly happy with that, you know.
A little longer than a few minutes later.
Is it the button? Is it the button itself? I think it's the button itself. So there's a very, very small part where the spring makes the connection. Here, it's worn down a hell of a lot. Right, so replacement L2 button. There we go.
One eternity later.
That's so much better. Yes! Finally, I've got it. I worked it out. So on the mid frame, it's got two clips, and those clips hold the board in. It wasn't holding the board in properly, meaning that it wasn't connecting with the membrane properly. So I've actually installed the old membrane, and it's working perfectly. So this controller had a lot wrong with it. So what have we changed on this device then? We've changed two sets of potentiometers, one analog stick module, the L2 button because it was worn, the pads for the shoulder buttons because they weren't compatible, and the spring on one of the triggers as well because it was bent. What am I missing? A battery, the holder that the battery comes in because it was missing a reset button, and I think we're pretty much there. So we've actually had a lot wrong with this device. Oh, and it was missing screws. I will test it a little bit more just to ensure that the battery that I've installed is charging fully, that it holds its charge. But providing there are no issues with that, then this will be going up for sale on my store. But I'm happy to call that fixed and repaired. I don't think I've swapped out so many parts on a controller, not that I can remember anyway. So to have one now that's working exactly as it should is a really good thing. And I think it looks great as well. Obviously it has these surface scratches which will bring it down to a grade C. However, it's still a wonderful looking bit of kit. With that in mind, that brings us to the end of this video. So thank you very much for watching. If you have liked what you've seen, then do like and subscribe. It is hugely appreciated. As mentioned before as well, this will be going out for sale on my store, so that's down in the description too. And I'll hopefully see you again in another video very soon. Thank you very much. Bye bye.